December Moon Alert. From December 1 through 7, the sky is handing you a truth you can't ignore. This is not small background noise. Think of a spotlight sweeping across a dim stage, pausing on the one prop that's been hiding in the shadows. The final supermoon of the year on December 4 acts like that spotlight. It tends to clarify, to expose, to separate what still hums with life from what has quietly expired. Then, on December 7th, the moon meets Jupiter, an amplifier, a magnifier, a bus-sized spotlight that can turn what was merely obvious into something unmistakable. This week may not rewrite every page of your life in an instant, but it can change the trajectory of your next chapter. Consider this an alert. Pay attention more than you act, and let what surfaces teach you where to step next. Why this particular week matters? It's compressed. Think of December 1 through 7 as a rapid diagnostic of your inner weather. The supermoon on December 4 makes feelings feel larger, impressions sharper. The Moon-Jupiter alignment on December 7th inflates clarity and often exposes truth in both compassionate and uncompromising ways. Astrology here is a language, not a law. The Moon and Jupiter don't force outcomes. They amplify signal and noise. What they do is make the invisible tasteable. So when sensations pop up between December 1 and 7, tiredness, a dream that lingers, an abrupt cancellation, treat them as signals on a dashboard, not as verdicts. If you're sensitive to energy and want updates throughout December, consider subscribing and ringing the bell now so you won't miss the subtler shifts that follow. Imagine the supermoon as a magnifying glass passed over a well-worn map. Under that glass, blurred ink sharpens. The edges of old patterns become clear. Relationships that have been functioning on habit rather than resonance, projects that persist because they're familiar rather than fruitful, thought loops that feel safe but no longer serve. The magnifying glass doesn't judge. It simply makes distinctions visible. It enlarges what's already there. Then Jupiter arrives like someone turning up the lights and the speakers at the same time. Clarity plus scale. What was small and undeniable becomes large and unavoidable. This is the energetic mechanism at work, in plain terms. Amplification of clarity, exposure of hidden currents, and a gravitational focus toward one path or idea that wants to be followed. You'll notice this week through a set of specific, often bodily signs. These are the signals people report most commonly during supermoon and amplifier moments, and they're worth cataloging for yourself. Waves of exhaustion that feel like release. It's not just being tired. It's as if your nervous system is unloading packets of stored tension. You may find yourself wanting to nap at odd hours or feeling heavy in the chest for no clear reason. Treat rest as data, not failure. Mood swings that act like emotional purging.
1 hour you're laughing at nothing. The next, you're gutted by a memory that used to feel neutral. These swings aren't evidence of instability so much as a clearing process. Think of it as emotional dust settling, uncomfortable but clarifying. Strange distortions of time. Minutes may feel elastic. An hour flies, or 15 minutes stretch longer than they should. Plans can drift. If something shifts or cancels, notice how it felt when that gap opened. Vivid dreams and sudden insight. Nighttime may bring sharp, cinematic dreams that offer metaphors, resolutions, or clues you've been missing in waking life. Keep a notebook by your bed and write down any fragments. Even a single line can become a compass. Cancellations and interruptions that eventually reveal themselves as openings. A missed meeting, a postponed call, a stalled commute. These gaps can be invitations to notice the steady tug of an idea that wants attention. Heightened perception of others. Micro-expressions, tone changes, subtleties in body language that suddenly read like a new language. You might see connections between events that you missed before, patterns aligning into a story. A single pull sensation. One idea, decision, or direction will begin to tug with persistence. It will not always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it returns like a simple whisper that grows louder each time you ignore it. Notice which idea makes other options feel quieter. These signs are not universal, but many people report some combination of them during concentrated energetic windows. To make this practical, here are 3 short, concrete exercises to do today and each morning this week. First, write down any idea that returns to you 3 times in one day. The repetition itself is part of the message. Second, before you sleep, note any vivid dream or emotional residue. In the morning, read the line again and ask, what could this be pointing to? Third, schedule a 20-minute block of solitude. No phone, no agenda, and sit with the question, if the next year could begin now, what would I rather plant than prune? These small practices are not heavy work. They are registers for the signal this week tends to send. Notice this, it's not mood swings, it's a release. When your system releases, the first instinct is often to fix, to act, or to reassume control. The wiser move here is to observe. Observing is an active, powerful stance. It's not passive waiting. Observation sharpens discernment. The supermoon's amplification favors clarity over forced motion. That means small, deliberate moves, taken from a place of clean perception, will likely carry more weight than dramatic gestures born from anxiety. Let me give you a couple of short, non-specific vignettes to make this concrete. Picture a person you know who had been circling a creative project for a year. Tiny steps, a lot of second-guessing.
During a week like this, a rehearsal canceled for the second time becomes the hour they needed to finish a single scene that opens a door. Or imagine someone else whose relationship felt safe but dull. A dream on the night of December 4 reveals a forgotten aspiration they shared long ago. That dream nudges a conversation that surfaces honest desires, not as accusations, but as clarifications. These scenes aren't guaranteed outcomes. They're possibilities that the energetic atmosphere tends to make more likely or more visible. The supermoon's role is often internal, releasing, exposing, clarifying. Jupiter's role a few days later is more public, expansion, disclosure, scaling. When Jupiter amplifies, things that were already leaning toward expression are more likely to show up in the outer world. A private insight may become a conversation. A quiet decision may become an email or an application. The single pull that's been tugging at you may show up as a sudden clarity in a meeting or a vivid, impossible-to-ignore thought during a commute. The key here is timing. The insight often arrives first in private. The follow-through potential surfaces around December 7. This week is also a time when your intuition tends to sharpen. Sensitivity upgrades are often mistaken for confusion when they first arrive. You might suddenly read more from someone's face, catch a motive you missed earlier, or realize a thread connecting long-ignored events. Think of your intuition like an antenna being retuned. The signal comes through clearer, but at first it may sound like static until you learn to distinguish the tone you actually want. One practical habit: when you have an impression about someone's motive or about a project, jot it down without judgment. Later, compare your notes with what actually unfolds. Over time, this creates a feedback loop that trains your compass. There is also the single pull phenomenon to watch. During condensed windows like December 1 through 7, one direction often begins to assert dominance. This is not necessarily the loudest option. Sometimes it's the quietest that persists. It's not always a full plan. More often, it's a first chapter. One image, one name, one small action that continues to return. Treat it like a magnet. What does it want to draw together? You can test it gently. Try one small, low-risk step aligned with that pull and observe the results. Does the idea feel easier, more coherent, more amplified? If so, it may be a seed worth tending into 2026. If not, you still have data. In the social sphere, expect a natural mismatch at times between your internal acceleration and other people's rhythms. As you notice patterns and feel pulled, others may not see the same urgency. That mismatch can cause friction or misinterpretation. So practice communicating gently and clearly. Boundaries are easier to keep when you're anchored in what you're actually sensing rather than reacting to other people's timelines.
If you need space to process a new clarity, say so. If someone needs reassurance, be clear about what you can give and what you can't, without apologizing for the pace your inner life requires right now. There will be temptations toward dramatic action during this amplifier period. It's natural. Clarity feels like a green light. But the difference between clarity and impulsivity is refinement. A radical decision made under an emotional spike often converts short-term relief into long-term regret. So favor small experiments. If an idea insists on being tried, design a minimal test. Rather than quitting, try reprioritizing one task for a week. Rather than severing a relationship, set a boundary for a conversation. Small, honest moves produce clearer feedback. Here are practical do's and don'ts to carry you through December 1st through 7. Do. Journal, morning and evening. Note recurring thoughts, 3-word summaries of how you felt, and any persistent image or phrase. This builds a trail you can follow. Schedule solitude. Even 20 minutes of quiet attention can transform noisy impulses into clear signals. Welcome cancellations with curiosity. If something falls away, ask what the space invites rather than assuming loss. Test the pull with micro-commitments. Try a small step in the direction that keeps returning. Sleep with a notebook. Many clues come through dreams. Protect your energy. Say no to energy drains without guilt. Your sensitivity is doing work right now. Don't. Make grand, irreversible decisions based on a single surge of emotion. Ignore physical signs. Exhaustion and restlessness are data. Honor them. Treat sensitivity as weakness. Heightened perception is upgrade work, not breakdown. Assume every insight is mission critical. Some pulls are distractions dressed as destiny. Push for clarity through force. Clarity often arrives when you create space for it. Mini hook. If a thought keeps returning, don't dismiss it. It could be the seed. As we move toward the week's apex, allow the pace to build in your inner life as it likely will externally. The days immediately around December 4 may feel heavier with private processing, dreams more animated, emotional debris rising. This is the magnifying moment. Use it for registration, not repair. The days leading to December 7 then tend to shift outward. The inner clarity you've been tracking may manifest as conversations, opportunities, or visible openings. This is not necessarily the moment to leap doing so because a door appears. Instead, treat it as an invitation to test and calibrate. Expect decisive moments to arrive as small, clear choices. A decision needn't be dramatic to be meaningful. Sometimes the most powerful turn is simply agreeing to follow one small thread rather than scattering your attention. Other times, clarity demands a firmer stance, and the amplified energy around December 7 can make that stance obvious.
When that happens, check alignment. Are you saying yes from resonance, curiosity, and a testable plan, or from reaction and pressure? If the latter, pause, breathe, and reframe the choice into a micro-step. There's a collective flavor to this week as well. You'll notice it in public conversations, in social media threads, or in the mood in shared spaces. A sense that a filter is being applied, that social patterns are loosening their hold, that people are more willing to call things what they are. When the collective amplitude rises, you may feel more seen and more misread at the same time. Keep your inner compass. Your role is not to fix the field, it's to discern where you fit in it. A key piece of orientation. Think of the last supermoon and the Moon-Jupiter pair as the energetic hinge between one chapter and another. In practical language, this means the seeds you notice now, the persistent ideas, the small steps you take, the boundaries you set, are likely to bear fruit into the next seasonal cycle.
Some people experience this as an early, energetic new year. Clarify. This does not replace the calendar. It reframes timing. December 1 to 7 can act like a preparatory gate. Plant what you want to grow next year by aligning actions to insights this week, not by forcing entire projects into existence. Here are 2 short practices to use when clarity peaks. 1. The 3 return test. When an image, word, person, or idea returns 3 separate times in a day or 3 days in a row, treat it as meaningful. Note the context each time it appears. Who you were with, what you were doing, what emotion accompanied it. Patterns across contexts give the idea shape. 2. The micro-experiment protocol. If a pull asks for action, design a 7-day micro-experiment. Define the smallest actionable step that gives you information. Set a clear, measurable outcome. This could be as simple as, I will write 500 words, or I will have 1 conversation about X. At the end, evaluate. If the experiment produces momentum, plan the next step. If it stalls, you've learned something and can adjust. Remember, the Moon and Jupiter are amplifiers. They make existing tendencies louder. They rarely create entirely new impulses out of nowhere. What this means for you is that the material surfacing this week probably has deeper roots. The energetic field is offering you an opportunity to see root patterns and choose how to tend them. Take advantage of that clarity before you act broadly. As we approach December 7, anticipate moments that feel like a sudden unblurring. Conversations that previously circled may land. A piece of information may align perfectly with an internal insight. An unexpected door may appear. In those moments, breathe and listen. If you're being pulled toward a decision, ask 2 quick clarifying questions. Does this feel aligned when I imagine holding it for a year? And can I test this in a small way first?
These questions are simple filters that reduce the chance of impulsive errors. If you're someone who tends to over-explain your inner shifts to others, notice how much of this week's process thrives in silence. Many of the most potent realignments happen privately. You may notice your language needing refinement as you try to convey your experience. Allow language to catch up to feeling. Keep a short inner summary you can offer others when necessary, but save the deeper processing for your own pages. This respects both your acceleration and the fact that others may not be tuned in to the same frequency right now. There's a tenderness worth naming. Ending and beginning can be messy and mortal. They involve grief and excitement often at the same moment. If grief surfaces for something you've lost or let go, honor it. Grief is part of clearing. If excitement arrives for a new possibility, let it inform your energy without propelling you into haste. The wise posture this week is compassion toward yourself as you navigate both. As a practical checklist for the week, keep a small notebook. Set 2 daily pauses for journaling, morning and evening. Schedule at least 3 20-minute solitude sessions between December 1 and 7. Sleep with a pen by the bed. Run 1 micro-experiment based on the pull you detect. And mentally frame cancellations as invitations to listen rather than setbacks. These simple structural supports convert chaotic signals into usable data. A few more vignettes to illustrate how this can play out. A person notices a recurring image of a small studio each time they walk past a certain block. They do a 3 return test and find the image returns 3 times across different days. They design a micro-experiment. Visit 3 studios this month and sit in one for an hour. The experience clarifies whether the pull is curiosity or commitment. Another person records a vivid dream that repeats a landscape of water and a closed boat. They schedule a 20-minute journaling session and find the metaphor connects to a partnership they've been avoiding. The conversation they have is careful, not catastrophic, and it opens a practical path forward. One caveat about physical symptoms: if you experience prolonged or severe distress, consult a medical or mental health professional. Energetic sensitivity is real and it can feel intense, but it's not a substitute for clinical care. Use the energetic framework as a complementary tool for sense-making, not as a sole diagnostic. By the time December 7 arrives, this week's crescendos often feel like clarity turning into action. The Moon-Jupiter alignment brightens how things show up externally. The difference between the supermoon and the Jupiter moment is internal versus external amplification. First, your system clears and notices, then what you've noticed tends to get louder in the world.
This can mean an honest conversation, an offer that aligns, a testable opportunity, or just a sudden feeling of, this is it. The wise posture at the crescendo is both openness and discernment. Welcome what appears, test it, and avoid dramatic jumps. As you close out this week, take inventory. What ideas returned with insistence? What cancellations felt like gifts? What dreams left residue worth following? Make a short clarity list of 3 items. 1 seed to plant, 1 pattern to prune, and 1 boundary to maintain. These 3 items are not exhaustive plans. They are the simplest ways to tend what matters as you move toward the next chapters of 2026. Finally, hold this perspective. When the title says the supermoon shift that will change everything this week, the phrase change everything can be read as a directional phrase. It describes a shift in direction more than an absolute rewrite. This week may change the next year's direction by clarifying which small steps are worth taking. It may reveal what belongs in the suitcase you'll carry forward and what to leave behind. Your sensitivity is an upgrade, an instrument for navigation, not an alarm. Use it to notice, to test, and to act gently and intentionally. If you want to make this week tangible, here are 2 last practical prompts to use daily between December 1 and 7. First, write 1 sentence each morning answering, "What feels different inside me today?" Second, before sleep each night, write 1 line about any recurring image or thought. Those 2 habits create a visible thread across the week and help you see the pull before it demands a dramatic move. This week is an invitation. Treat it like a keen instrument tuning itself. Listen closely, test lightly, and step when clarity invites rather than when confusion pushes. Share what you notice. Tell us in the comments the persistent idea or image that keeps returning to you this week. A single line is enough. If this message landed for you, share it with someone who could use a little clarity and subscribe for more weekly energetic alerts.